to another episode of the Marvel Masterworks podcast. As always, I'm your host, and with me is my co-host, Donnie. Donnie, how's it going?
What's up, Marvel fans? It's the podcasting machine, the big nerd in green. It's the Emerald Enthusiast here to talk to you about Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yes, and if you could see the background behind me, he is no longer the Falcon.
Now, Captain America, but we'll get there in time.
And we'll get there. But, of course, we're doing episodes. The main bulk of the discussion will be episodes 4 through 6, because we did one through 3 a couple of weeks ago. Now, before we get to the good stuff, which is some comic news and then the review, Donnie, you know I'm an equal opportunity kind of person.
Yes.
Right? And being an equal opportunity individual.
Everyone hold on to your seats here. Adam's ready to go off. Go ahead.
When I see stupidity, whether it be on the DC fandom side of the aisle or the Marvel fandom side of the aisle, I feel the need to call it out and say what is ridiculous when it's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So we know that you know, on the DC side of things, we got the hashtag release the Snyder Cut, and which I'm on the surface of not opposed to, if done when it was done in a respectful, kind, open-minded way, like the specific area of fandom were the ones that donated to charity. You know, I fully support that. Like half of the money they raised went to suicide prevention, which is great. So those people, I'm on board, and they got Zack Snyder's Justice League. Where I get kind of annoyed, frustrated, mind-boggled is when you have a segment of the fandom that would go underneath every post that Warner Media made and release the Snyder Cut, or now it's restore the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're being intrusive and idiotic and like they're commenting on a Sesame Street post, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no place for that. And when they attack executives or when there's negative connotations to it, that's when I draw the line. But that was on the DC side of things. So I've said my piece on that. Anyway, the Snyder Cut is here. Happy for it. We reviewed it. I enjoyed it. I'm ready to move on. Some people aren't. C'est la vie. Anyway, now the Marvel, some segment of the Marvel Cinematic Universe fandom is taking a similar tack, because one of the things that the Snyder Cut movement did to create buzz for the Snyder Cut was, they paid for a billboard that said, release the Snyder Cut, and
yes.
It was out in LA. Yeah. And again, a lot of those people donated some proceeds to charity. So kudos to you.
The rational segment of fans. Yes.
So some of the MCU fans, a segment of them, have taken the same idea, the billboard portion. I don't know if they've donated to charity. Now, if they have donated to charity, congratulations. Good for you. I commend that. But all I know is the billboard. So I'm going to look it up here because I saw it, and I'm going to do a quick thing. Yep. It's okay. So here it is. It's an event. It's a hashtag event, and I don't know if it's either today. I haven't blocked the hashtag yet. I should get on that. But I haven't seen it today. It's either today or Monday.
Okay.
And it's bring back Tony Stark to the MCU. Now, Donnie, Tony Stark had one of the most satisfying story arcs I've ever seen.
I would agree.
Let me preface this by saying, so the event is today, and the actual hashtag is, and I'm not endorsing tweeting this, but it's bring back Tony Stark to life. So it doesn't actually make any sense. Like, if you want to make a proper hashtag, it would be hashtag bring Tony Stark back to life. But these intelligent individuals, and I use that phrase lightly, decided to mangle that phrase and write bring back Tony Stark to life. So it makes no sense. Clearly, going to school was not one of their fortes. Anyway, but Tony Stark had a very satisfying arc from Iron Man 1 all the way to Avengers Endgame. And let me preface by saying that Tony Stark, Iron Man, in terms of the MCU, just the live action films and such, was my favorite of the Marvel characters. So you'd think if anybody was pro more Tony Stark, it'd be me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do not condone this. The guy, again, had the most fully formed arc, I think, to date in the MCU. The studio wanted to go in this direction. Robert Downey Jr. is okay with moving on.
Mm-hmm.
He said as much. Let it be. We had, what was it, 7 to 9 movies that featured Tony Stark?
Yeah. Including the Spider-Man movie. I mean, there was a lot of Iron Man content. Make no mistake, the MCU was built on Iron Man.
Yes. But
that doesn't mean that Marvel Studios doesn't want to move beyond Iron Man to different heroes. I mean,
we have 2 specific projects that are Iron Man related that are going to pick up his mantle. It's Armor Wars with Rhodey, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
War Machine.
Yes.
And now Ironheart, which is going to be a Disney Plus series as well.
Yeah.
Let the story evolve. Now, had the MCU evolved in a way where they had set it up so that when an actor's contract expired and they wanted to keep using the characters and they just recast like they did with War Machine, right? And they just said it's the same guy, different actor playing him. I would be all for more Tony Stark. But that's not the way they've generally done things.
Right.
Steve Rogers is Chris Evans. He did his series of movies. And now Sam Wilson, as we'll discuss, is taking up the mantle.
Mm-hmm. Right.
This is how the MCU has done things. There will come a time in 10, 20, who knows how many years, where they'll have some big event and they'll recast some of these roles, like the Iron Mans, the Steve Rogers,
mm-hmm.
The Bruce Banners. Eventually these roles will get recast,
mm-hmm.
but not right now. That's not where we're going right now. So for now, Tony Stark is gone. I don't want to see him revived in the literal sense. I think that would cheapen and dampen the emotional impact and weight of his.
Isn't that a regular criticism of comics, is that characters die and then they're immediately brought back to life?
Yeah, but
again, so their deaths don't mean anything.
But Donnie, again, see the people that fixate on these hashtags, I love statistics on how many of them actually read comics.
Mm-hmm.
That's just an aside. But so my point is, eventually we'll see more Tony Stark, and it'll be recast, and there'll be a reset of the universe, and I'll be down for it. Now, that doesn't mean I don't want to see that Robert Downey Jr. can't make another appearance. He can be a hologram or
mm-hmm.
the AI of Ironheart. I'm all for that.
Yeah, or a flashback. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, but to bring him back in living, breathing, corporeal form, to me, that's the right word, correct? Am I right?
Yes, corporeal, yes.
Yeah. To bring him back in that way, to me, would cheapen the fantastic storytelling that we got. And does Robert Downey Jr. even want to do that? See, this is the thing that angers me about the hashtag movement. This hashtag make the Batfleck movie, or now bring back Tony Stark to life. Ben Affleck said he was done. He wants to find a cool way to segue out of the role, i.e. his role in The Flash. Robert Downey Jr. went on. I think it was Joe Rogan or wherever the hell he went on, and he said, you never know, but for now, I'm done. Let him be done. If he decides, if he calls up, Kevin Feige and says, hey, buddy, I decided that I've got an itch. Is there any way we can scratch it and I can come back? If he makes that call, then so be it. But this is ridiculousness, I think.
No, I would agree, and you hit on a great point there. Another thing you have to consider: these actors, not only do they want to stretch their legs creatively, they may not want to keep playing these type of roles that we know people have gotten hurt playing these roles. These are physical roles, even with stunt people to do them.
Like I get, this idea that, yes, we're consumers and we can ask for things, but there's a degree to which that is acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
If the studio has a clear plan of where they want to go, we have to let creators be able to create. It can't just be what we want, like our personal bubble wish list of what we want. That's not the way movie making works. Movie making is not Walmart. I can't go to Walmart and see, my favorite brand of ketchup chips is not in stock. At Walmart, I can go to the manager and say, hey, why aren't you carrying these? And he'll give me an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have to accept that. Right?
Right.
So then I make the choice of either I try this new brand of ketchup chips that I'm being sold, or I don't and I move on.
Yeah. Well, and let me say, you mentioned Ironheart. That's an important character. If Marvel is going to sustain the success that they have had, they're going to need to introduce new characters that will connect with younger generations.
Like, are we going to have a 60 to 70-year-old Robert Downey Jr. running around? Like, the ask is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like it's like, again, these guys at some point want to move on, and they're allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hugh Jackman gave fans 17 years of service. Let him go. Let him be.
Yeah.
The only one that can ask him to come back is maybe Ryan Reynolds. That's it.
Yeah.
Everybody else, that's the decision he's made. And again, I get, some people will say we're consumers, we have the right to ask for things. Yes, but movie making is not Walmart. Mm-hmm. It's not Costco.
Well, I was unfamiliar with this until you told me right before we started recording.
I'm sorry that I had to share this stupidity with you, Donnie.
No, I can't believe that this is something that people want. Now, it's nothing against, Robert Downey Jr. or Iron Man. Obviously,
again,
I love the character.
I love the portrayal. Yeah. I love the character, but I'm excited for Armor Wars. Yeah. I'm excited for Ironheart.
Yeah.
Look, I may not like it, Donnie. I may come out and I say, look, it stinks. Highly unlikely, but there's a possibility. But I'm going to go give it a chance. I'm going to give it a chance. And again, if I'm unhappy, guess what I have to do? What I can do? I can rewatch all the movies with Iron Man in it. And better yet, I can read the comics that have Tony Stark in them.
Like I said, again, Marvel obviously had a plan to advance beyond the original Avengers and put new heroes out, new types of characters, new movies. People sometimes want to get stuck in stasis because it's what they like, without understanding that progress has to be made.
And if the studio doesn't do what they want, they don't have a plan, or they don't know what they're doing. No, it's just you don't like what they're doing. There's a distinction. So I like Donnie is again. There's a degree to which you can ask for something, and then you have to accept that it's not going to happen, and this is what they're doing. Yeah. But is it me, or has the sense of entitlement within the fandom got out of hand here?
No, I agree. I mean, that there's been several hashtags. There's been times when I've posted something about comics where somebody comes along and they post something completely different that has to do with like a movie.
You mean restore the Snyderverse? You mean that one?
Well, that's one of them. There's some other things that, and again, I liked the Snyder Cut. I was all for that. Yeah. But there's times I posted about comics that have nothing to do with that, and people immediately post that, or they post something else about Supergirl or something, and some ship that they want or something like that.
Here's an example. Yeah. We're going to talk about the evolution of Captain America. There's been an announcement of another film. We'll get into specifics in a second.
Yes.
But And they announced that right after, literally almost an hour, the same day as the Falcon and Winter Soldier finale.
Good timing.
Now, but do you think? Now, I believe this was always in the planning stages. I don't think Marvel did. Oh, look how good this is doing. We're going to make a Captain America 4. I think this was already planned in advance of the finale airing.
Well, yeah. If you look at
this wasn't done. Well, the fans seem to like this, let's give them more. Like, that's not how the studios work.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the costume, the fact that they're calling him Captain America, which we will get into, but and Sam's been Captain America in the comics, so I think this was the plan all along.
Yeah, I don't think this was a spur. Oh, look, the fans, the ratings, it's bringing in the subscribers. We're going to do this. It wasn't on a whim. This was part of the plan.
Yeah.
This wasn't, oh, look at Marvel, how much they love their fans by comparison to, look, they do what their fans want, whereas DC, because they're not giving me what I want, don't. Because that's some of the talk I'm seeing online. Marvel and DC have the same objective. They look at the numbers. What's going to make us the most money? That's how they move forward with projects.
Right. Well, it's like you said, in this pandemic era, the companies have brought the entertainment to you. These are the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Even though these are TV series, this is how the story's going forward.
What I'm saying is, they don't make business decisions on, well, the fans seem to want this. There's a hashtag campaign. Let's do it. They make decisions on, we think, based on metrics and numbers, that this will make us money. Mm-hmm. Let's make this product. That's how they decide on what to do. Like Hollywood studios, Marvel, Warner Brothers on the DC side, Disney, however you want to phrase it, they are money motivated. They're not charities. They donate to charities, but they're not charities. They don't just give you what you want because you like it and you hashtag about it. They give you, they put out what they want based on what's going to make them money. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So like these again, it's just fandom gives me a headache sometimes. Yeah. And it's stuff like this with these hashtags and billboards. It's like, it's all too much. Again, fandom entitlement has gotten out of hand, in my opinion.
Well, and there's a lot of fan bases out there. Being a Star Wars fan,
Star Wars is a no, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned something about any Star Wars movie, and there are people who are they're immediately there to attack Disney for the sequel trilogy, or they want to attack the prequels, even if you're not talking about that. So. Yeah, unfortunately, there are some fans who take things too far.
This is I don't know. It gets out of hand, and it makes the fun of being a fan. It sucks. It sucks the life out of things. Yeah. So I don't know what to tell you. I won't again. My stance has become now in terms of hashtags. Once in a blue moon, you'll see me hashtag release the Schumacher cut, because I think that would be a cheap endeavor for Warner Media to do. Relatively cheap. They just gotta, they have the footage somewhere. You just have to it's re-editing it. I made a hashtag that a couple times, and the vote Green Lantern in the but those are the only two. Yeah. Everything else, I'm done. I'm done with all these other hashtags. I've had enough. Look. They're going to put out the entertainment. They're going to put out Marvel and Disney and DC. I'm going to give it a shot. Either I'm going to like it or I'm going to dislike it. I'll come out on one of these podcasts, whichever the case may be, and I'll say my piece, and I'll move on to the next thing. That's my stance going forward.
No, I would agree. It's like, I've always told you that I'm looking more towards the future than the past, and all of these, release this thing, this longer version of this movie and this longer version of this, whatever. I'm more interested in these things sustaining, the franchises and being vital into the future. So, and if you want to know more about the Vote Green Lantern hashtag, you can tune into the Emerald Echo Vidcast right here on YouTube.
You like how I set you up for that unintentionally, eh? That was good, eh?
That's right.
All right, so
knock it out of the park.
Let's move on to fun stuff, not this nonsense.
All right.
So Marvel Comics has released some their July solicitations.
Okay.
And there's some really cool stuff coming from Marvel in July that I think we'll have to cover at some point.
Yes.
Because we had pledged to do a balance of comic talk and movie and TV talk on these shows.
Yes.
And so far the streaming shows have been staggered one after the other that we've been covering them fast and furiously, not the movies, but you know what I mean.
Right.
And we haven't really got a chance to break away and do some comic talk, but we are going to do that because in May, between the only live action Marvel we have in May is Black Widow, which we will review, but it gives us a chance to also dive into some comic talk, which we will. But let's take a look at some of the July comics.
Sure.
So we have an interesting book, Donnie. It's a 5-part miniseries. Amazing Fantasy, #1, kicks off in July. And basically, it's drawn and written by Kari Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with his work. I think it's a he. But it says, experience these heroes like never before. And it talks about having a Red Room Black Widow, a teenage Spider-Man, a World War II Captain America. The most iconic versions of your favorite Marvel characters from across time and space all wake up on an island of intrigue, darkness, and amazing fantasy. Mm-hmm. Are they dead? Are they dreaming? Or have they truly been transported to another fantastical realm? And is there a way for them to return home? This isn't just a love letter to your favorite Marvel eras. It's a reinvestment in the seminal characters you've always loved, plucked from their quintessential timelines.
The art here gives me like Conan the Barbarian vibes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I assume that's...
This is that kind of like fantasy imagery.
Thor, I guess,
mm-hmm.
on holding an axe, whatever the axe is.
Yeah, I would think so. That looks like Yarnbjorn. I don't know. And he's holding Cap's shield, but I'm pretty sure that's Yarnbjorn.
Yeah. That looks like something like out of the friggin' come on, what's it called?
Heavy Metal?
No, it's like Lord of the Rings meets Chronicles of Narnia.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm digging this. I like. Obviously, I'm nostalgic to the title of the book because Amazing Fantasy #15 or whatever, right?
Right.
Kicked off.
For those of you who don't know, that's where Spider-Man started.
Yeah. See, even I know that. I'm not the historian Donnie is, but even I know that. Even this idiot can figure that out. But I'm really intrigued by this. It reminds me of the DC recently, the 2-part thing, Generations, or is that what?
Yeah.
Generation Shattered,
mm-hmm.
or whatever it was called.
Generation Shattered, yeah.
Similar kind of idea, kind of sort of. I'm intrigued by this. I'm going to check this out, Donnie.
I definitely want to pick up a few of these. I mean, I'm seeing, the Spider-Man stuff looks very interesting.
Yeah, let's talk about so I think because it's a 5-parter, it's a miniseries. I think Amazing Fantasy is something we may cover on this here show.
Okay.
So on to the spider. If I say this, people are going to get confused, but I'm going to do it because it makes sense. On to the Spider-Verse area of titles. We have an event, a summer event starting in July. Mm-hmm. It's called Sinister War. It's going to be written by Nick Spencer, who is the current writer of Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay.
It's going to be drawn by Mark Bagley, who was a longtime artist on the Ultimate Spider-Man comics. And it's got a cover by Brian Hitch, and oh my God, Brian Hitch can draw the phone book, and I think it's the most fantastic looking phone book in the history of phone books. So basically, the description is Dr. Octopus is back in comics and in movies, but we'll get to that. That wasn't in the description, that's just me. It says, Dr. Octopus is back and the Sinister War has begun. And so it says, Ock's got a new Sinister Six, and you think he's thought big in the past, think again. What Ock doesn't know is that Vulture has, I got to read this word very carefully, a sextet of his own, the Savage Six. It's an all-out war between two of the greatest villains in the Marvel Universe.
Yes.
And the only person they hate more than each other is Spider-Man. Oh, poor guy.
So he's caught in the middle of a gang war. There we go.
It says Spidey's in deep trouble with the toughest battle that he's ever faced. This event is going to tie into the Amazing Spider-Man title, specifically issues 70 and 71 of that title. Donnie, I'm currently reading The Amazing Spider-Man, and Nick Spencer's been killing it.
Yeah.
Again, I think because Sinister War is a miniseries, I think we might have to do a kind of a review on this. Kind of like how we did for the Justice League book. I can never name.
Endless Winter.
Yeah, that's it. So I think we may have to cover this as well. I'm looking forward to it. Anytime you can get the classic, team up, the classic villain team involved, I'm on board.
Looking at the image here, there's a lot of classic villains. I'm seeing Lizard and Sandman and Rhino and Vulture and Kraven and Electro.
It's a cornucopia of villainry, really.
Yeah.
Now, Donnie, something that is really, I think, would really sort of entertain and invigorate you. There's a lot of Carnage stuff on this list.
Yes.
So why don't you take us through some of this? We've got.
Well, one here I'm seeing Extreme Carnage Alpha #1. And this seems to take place after, I guess, King in Black, which I'm currently reading. But this is going to feature some of the old symbiotes from the Life Foundation from the 90s. Scream, Faj, Riot, Lasher, Agony. I'm in right there just for, the reappearances of those. I'm seeing Toxin in the imagery here. And, of course, Agent Anti-Venom. So,
yeah.
You give me a bunch of those symbiotes and I'm in. Those are always interesting.
I think you're excited for this, Donnie?
Oh, yes. And Extreme Carnage Scream. Scream is another character who, if you've never read her, she's extremely underrated. Very interesting character.
So this may be something we have to do a deep dive into.
Yeah. I'm sure I will get at least those. I'll probably go ahead and get in floppy form. A lot of this I'll get later on in like trade or hardcover, but
yeah.
A variant cover by Scotty Young on one of these. That's interesting.
Yeah. So we again, like I said, we're pledging to do more comic content, and I know how much the symbiotes are mean to you. So I think we're gonna have to do like a deep dive into these kind of things.
Okay.
And Venom, and past Venom, because we don't have current Venom because it's over for right now. I suspect that after all this, we're gonna get a new Venom title. Just my educated guess is my thing. One that I'm really curious about, Donnie, is a character. Let me preface this by saying a character that I've always been intrigued by is Moon Knight.
Okay, yeah.
I've always wanted to get into him. Back when Brian Michael Bendis had a run on the character. Mm-hmm. And I think Brian Hitch was doing the artwork.
Okay.
And I really wanted to read that, but for whatever reason, I just hadn't had a chance to pick it up yet.
Yeah.
So I've had this burning, kind of desire to get into the character a bit more. And then, of course, now we find out that there's an MCU Disney Plus series, Moon Knight, starring Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I really got to get in. I need to learn more about this character.
Yeah.
And then I read he was in a recent story arc in Avengers, and I really like that. I don't know if you're caught up on that.
No, I'm not caught up on. I actually have a stack of Avengers comics I haven't read yet. So,
But the one that he was in, well, I really like. So I'm like, damn, I didn't know a new Moon Knight series was coming, but I'm like, after I read that series with him in it, I'm like, man, after this, I really want to new. Like, I love. He said, I don't mind going back, but if you look at how many volumes of Moon Knight there's been, that's a pretty darn daunting task. So in my head, I was like, I really want a new Moon Knight series. I love it.
yeah.
And for my birthday, apparently, Marvel's answered my call, because we're getting a Moon Knight #1. It's an ongoing series.
I bet you that will sell well.
I certainly hope so. Look. Right now, I only have one. You know how I delineate things. There's a physical pull list and a digital pull list.
Right.
Right now, I have a lot of most of my Marvels on my digital pull list, with the exception of Daredevil, because I've been talking your ear off about that Daredevil series.
Yes.
It's the best thing since Alexa Bliss, really. And I mean that, actually. But I know you want to see this, Donnie.
Okay.
Because and it makes sense here. My mention makes sense because I don't know if you remember, but a while back, Alexa Bliss wore Iron Man inspired wrestling gear. Remember that?
Yes, I do remember that. Yes.
And you know what happens, Donnie, when Alexa Bliss wears Iron Man inspired wrestling gear? You want to know what happens? She's on the list. Anyway, speaking of my other list, my comic pull list, I think I'm going to add the second Marvel title on my physical pull list will be Moon Knight #1, just because I'm so intrigued by this character. I want to learn more. I'm fascinated. And so I think I'm going to put him on my list. Now, it says here, what does it say here? Why did I miss it? I lost my place. Here we go. Okay. The mysterious Mr. Knight has opened his midnight mission. His people petitioning for protection from the weird and horrible. The Moon Knight stalks the rooftops and alleys marked with his crescent moon tag, bringing violence to any who would harm his people. It says here, Mark Spector, in whichever guise he dons, is back on the streets. And it says, a renegade priest of an unworthy god. But while Khonshu languishes in a prison that Moon Knight put him in, that was in the Avengers arc that I talked about.
Yeah.
Moon Knight must still observe his duty, protecting those who travel at night. I don't know. Right. I'm fascinated, Donnie.
Yeah.
It sounds like I like that supernatural kind of stuff. So this sounds right up my alley. Also, he's got look at that costume. That's freaking cool.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like
I actually tend more towards characters like that too, who mystical, magical, or space based as opposed to the ground level heroes.
Donnie, would it be fair to say he's a kind of like a mix of? How can I phrase this? Like a Batman meets Dr. Fate kind of thing?
You could say that he's difficult to categorize. He's very unique. So
okay, all right. Well,
yeah, that's a good as way as any to say it. So
that's just something I thought about in my head.
All right.
And so there's also a special, apparently because it's Captain America's. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's his 80th anniversary?
Yes. 1941.
Right. So there's a miniseries, a 5-part miniseries that actually starts in June. It's called The United States of Captain America. Mm-hmm. And it's basically anybody, apparently, and I'm not caught up on anything Captain America recently, so I don't know when, where, how this happened, but his shield is missing. Somebody stole the shield, Donnie.
Yeah.
Hashtag find the shield. There's a conspiracy happening. Anyway, somebody stole the shield.
All right, Sami Zayn.
Yeah. somebody stole the shield. So Cap has recruited everybody that has ever taken up the mantle of Captain America to basically go across America and find who and where his shield is. And along the way, we're going to meet in different cities, have their own protector taking up the guise of Captain America. So it's kind of like a Captain America Corps, if you.
Yeah, sounds interesting. Yeah.
So I'm curious by this. And so again, I think it's something that we should do something to honor Captain America's 85th. You said?
No, I believe it's just 80.
80th anniversary. So I think maybe reviewing this would be a good way to go.
Okay.
And then one more comic that I'd like to call attention to that I'm intrigued by is the Avengers. I think it's 46, I believe, on the list. It's basically they're adapting the World War. They're doing like a World War She-Hulk, which is, play on words.
Oh, I mean, if that's anything like World War Hulk, it'll be amazing.
So I'm definitely gonna be checking. I'm checking the Avengers title out anyway, but I'm definitely looking forward to that. Those are the ones that I'm looking forward to, and I think sounds like we're gonna cover some of these, Donnie.
Mm-hmm.
So good stuff coming from the comics, which is always important to discuss and highlight.
Definitely. Well, we've gotten a lot of good feedback on the fact that we discuss not only comic book related movies and TV, but we actually do comics. So
yeah, I wish we've had a chance to do more. But again, because the shows were stacked one by one,
right.
We haven't really gotten a break on the Marvel side, but we will. So
yeah, Captain America #1 was 1941. You actually see this in the series if you've never seen this.
Yeah,
Captain America #1, 80 years ago, honoring that comic. So
we will definitely be. I think covering this miniseries will be a good way to celebrate Captain America's 80-year legacy. So we'll keep that in mind. In June, we'll schedule an episode. It'll be fun, and I'm also looking for more Captain America comic recommendations, because I've only read, I have the omnibus of the Brubaker run,
mm-hmm.
and I think it takes me to, which I've read, it goes all the way through to Fallen Sun.
Okay.
So I'm looking for Captain America recommendations. So if any listeners, or if you know of anything, Donnie, that you think I should check out, any viewers, listeners, send them my way, because I'm very interested.
Well, I used to read Cap back in the 80s. I can tell you a few of the runs that I like. And I can also tell you about, it's not Captain America per se. It's one of the side characters. There's another comic I'm going to mention when we get into the TV episodes here that I like.
Cool. Awesome. I can't wait. I'm looking at, like I said, I definitely want to read more of Sam as Cap also, because obvious reasons. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to recommendations. But that's all the comic specific news we have. Let's dive in. Episodes 4 to 6 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Donnie, take it away. Where are we?
We are on episode 4. The whole world is watching. And this really powerful episode here. It opens up in Latvia, and we see that. Or is this the episode? Wait a minute. Where was the episode that we saw the flashback with Bucky? Maybe that was this one, which was actually, I want to say, my favorite moment. I know that we. Yeah. Okay. So episode 3 ended with Io showing up in Latvia and telling Bucky Barnes that the Dora Milaje was there to get Baron Zemo.
Yeah. That's how they.
Yeah. So no, this is the one that we see the flashback, and I've got to say, I think this was my favorite moment in the whole series. It was incredibly emotional to see Io reciting the code words that would activate the Winter Soldier programming within Bucky, and you see him see all these images in his head of all these horrible things that he had done, but he starts to cry, and she says, "You're free." You know?
Yeah, they're almost trying to exercise. It's like an exorcism kind of thing.
You know, I actually thought about that, and I'm not going to get too deep into this, but for anyone who has some kind of religious faith, you know, you're confronting the worst part of yourselves if you have some kind of, you know, religious epiphany. And you can see that in Bucky. This almost paralleled that of, you know, him confronting his history, and then her saying, "You're free."
Yeah.
Very emotional.
I thought it was great. And, you know, I talked about Iron Man's arc throughout this whole MCU. Also, Bucky has had a great arc, I think, as well. Fantastic. And this is just like, you see how much the weight of what he's done weighs on him, and how he's trying desperately to atone for what
Sam
he's done. Sam says it right. Up until this point, he's been avenging, which is kind of a nice play on words. But and anytime we get to see more of Wakanda, I think is a great.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And I didn't plan this, Donnie, but look what I'm wearing.
All right, yeah, I like it. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
So I didn't plan it, but I mean, I need a new Captain America shirt, but because I used to have one. Remember when Civil War came out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I got a team, even though I was at one stage Team Tony. I had a shirt that said Team Captain America, but you know, me enjoying to eat. The shirt no longer fits me properly, so
I didn't know where you were going with that.
I need a new Captain America shirt, damn it. But yeah, so no, I signed me up for more Wakanda. I love the interconnectivity of that, and really sort of calling back because we know he sort of recuperated on Wakanda for a time being, right?
Yes, for a number of years, and that's what, you know, that's why there is, you know, such the connection there with Wakanda and Bucky. I mean, that's, you know, not only did he get the programming taken out, that's where his arm came from. So. Now,
Donnie, do you think that they will ever because they call him the White Wolf?
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever think in the movies he'll take up that moniker simply because he wants to sort of get away from the Winter Soldier?
It's interesting. He could. I don't exactly have a frame of reference for that. There might be something really recent, but in the comics, White Wolf is actually Black Panther's adopted brother and Hunter. So different in the comics. So I don't exactly know where they'd go with this.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure because they've called him that several times, and I'm like, is that a moniker that he could take on? I don't know.
It could be, but Bucky seems to have something big that develops towards the end of this. So
I like the fact that he calls himself. I think there's an advantage to going by the Winter Soldier, and I'll tell you why. Mm-hmm. Because it inspires fear, so you can use that fear to your advantage, mm-hmm. and then when you have your adversaries scared out of their wits, so even though he's trying to be a better person, you can still use the fear that moniker inspires to help you out in your quest. Much like Batman, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, he did that in this series.
Right, yeah.
He posed as the Winter Soldier for a while. So,
which is what he can continue to do to achieve his ultimate goal.
Yes.
So there's an advantage to remaining the Winter Soldier. But yeah, okay, take us, where do you want to go through next?
So anyway, what I was saying is, again, we're back on the streets of Latvia. And
wouldn't it have been cool if it was Latveria?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. But yeah, so Io, she's told Bucky that he and Sam have 8 hours to finish what they're doing, because after that, the Dora Milaje is going to come and collect Baron Zemo.
Yeah.
So now Zemo is helping them find Carly Morgenthau, the head flag smasher.
Yeah.
And that's why they're there, and they're trying to get that done before the Dora come back and collect Baron Zemo.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, a lot of great acting here, and I really like how kind of tight that was with the Dora showing up, and later on they would show up again, and yeah. Now again, I want to get into this. I don't want to belabor this point. I still don't like Baron Zemo. I still don't like where they've gone with him here.
Yeah.
And every time that I thought that there was going to be a point where the character would take that turn to villainy, it always disappointed me. Yeah. So I mean, Baron Zemo's been my only major disappointment for this series. Now, I'm aware that a lot of people like this version of Baron Zemo. By all means, go into the comments section and tell me what you like about this character. But for me, I'm like, there's no adhesive X. He's not as skilled. We never see him use a sword or some kind of edged weapon.
Yeah, does he fight at all? I don't even,
well, there was that one scene where he was wearing the mask, and he does use guns, but we never see him get disfigured. All the things that I would have expected Baron Zemo to be, or at least the version of Helmut Zemo to be, we don't get to see any of that. And for me, that's been a disappointment. So
fair enough. Yeah, I agree. I'm in agreement with you. So yeah.
And
he's got some dance moves that are entertaining to people, though.
A lot of people seem to like that. I did not, but a lot of people did.
Yeah. Him and I think Marvel should make like one of those. How they're doing like the Groot series with like mini kind of episodes.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
They should do one where it's like they recruit Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker, Star-Lord, and Zemo, and have them just dance. That could be an episode.
Exactly. Yeah. But, and so what we see in this episode here, one of the things is that Sam is able to eventually track down Carly, and that's at the funeral for her adopted mother.
Yeah.
And he's trying to reason with her, and I really like that.
Yeah.
That part of his heroism is that it's not just going in, fist and fury and trying to punch everything. And he even says, I understand your point of view.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand your methods here. I don't understand what you're trying to achieve here. But I understand, your dissatisfaction with all of a sudden, the world going back to the way it was, as opposed to the cooperation within the time frame of the blip.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, no, I like that he tried to reason with her, because you could you can understand her point of view very easily. There are things that she does where it's going about getting changed the wrong way, but her reasons for doing so are understandable.
Very much so. And it's really been a stroke of brilliance from Marvel Studios, because in the comics, there's Carl Morgenthau, the Flag Smasher, who is an anti-nationalist.
So have they gender bent, or is this like a dog?
Yeah, they've just gender flipped her. As far as I know, she's not his child or anything.
Okay.
But they've worked it in perfectly here, because obviously the anti-nationalist motivation from the comics works perfectly here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So Falcon tries to reason with her to, try to stop her from being on this collision course with, him and Bucky. And we see Walker and Battlestar, they crash the party before he's able to actually achieve anything with her. And that's when things take a very negative turn. And of course, there's a big fight there. And then the Dora, they do show up. And things get
that fight was awesome, man.
Yeah, that was amazing. I really like the line where what did he say? Walker said, "Yeah, they don't have any jurisdiction here," and she's like, "The Dora Milaje, we have jurisdiction wherever we feel like it's necessary. Wherever we are, we have jurisdiction."
And I love the fact how she's like basically she took Bucky's arm off temporarily.
Yeah, she disarmed him literally.
Yeah. And then that's the king of all dad jokes right there, buddy. And then when she flipped up the shield and caught it,
dad joke magic. Yeah,
when she flipped up the shield and caught it, like she just owned that. And basically, she's like, "This is our tech. We made this crap.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
check yourselves at the door. Without us, you wouldn't have an arm and you wouldn't have a shield."
Well, Aya was actually the one who said, she told the other Dora Milaje member, whose name is escaping me right now. She said, "Leave it. Don't take the shield with you." But that whole thing
but
was
it's the idea of look who this really belongs to. We made this.
Right.
We gave it to you, but let's be real. Whose technology is behind it, right?
Yeah. So at this point, Zemo escapes and he goes after Morgenthau. He's shooting at her, and she has a bunch of the vials to recreate the super soldiers, and she drops it trying to get away from him, and he proceeds to smash all of them except one, and then he's KO'd by Walker, who then takes the vial and puts it in one of his pockets. And we know how that's going to go.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So that was another opportunity. I was hoping, maybe Zemo takes it at this point. That disfigures him or whatever.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. So I should stop setting myself up for disappointment, I guess. So
or you can do a hashtag thing.
Oh, but
yeah, hashtag disfigure Zemo. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm not going to be immature about it.
Come on, when you gonna splurge for that billboard? Come on.
Oh, a billboard. Okay. Yeah. I'm sure everybody in the town where I lived, which was a lot of trees around me and stuff, would just love that. So after Zemo recovers, Walker and Battlestar, they break in and they demand that now they take Zemo. And so then I get a couple scenes kind of mixed up here. But anyway, this is where business really picks up. And I guess I am in the right place here. So Carly calls Sarah after all this happens and threatens Sarah's children. She's like, if Sam doesn't show up for this second meeting, and this time alone, maybe we need to have a meeting where you are, basically threatening her with the flag smash.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. That, and again, that's, pretty villainous there. So,
for sure.
The Flag Smashers are reluctant villains because, they're convinced that they're right.
Yeah, but you know what? A lot of great villains think that they're doing, that they're the hero of their own story, right?
Well, and you know what? And that's a good way to put it, because as this progresses, she becomes so convinced that she's right that she starts to think the end justifies the means, regardless of what those means may be.
Yeah.
Even if it means hurting and killing people in the process.
Yeah.
So during the second meeting, again, Walker shows back up, and we see after a few feats that he does that he has taken the serum at this point.
Yeah.
And brutal battle. Again, multiple characters fighting here. Call back to Captain America, the Winter Soldier. We see the knife fights, which were expertly executed. And as things go on here, Battlestar jumps in as Walker is almost killed. He's almost stabbed. But then Carly knocks Battlestar into a column, which breaks Battlestar's neck, and he dies instantly.
Yeah.
And that's where Walker just kind of goes off the rails.
He loses it. Loses it. And I like that they set this up with the conversation that Battlestar and Walker had about, would you take the serum? And there's the back and forth debate of, I hear it can mess you up. And then he goes like, yeah, but take the risk because, you could do more good if you accomplish more with the serum. So they already kind of planted the seed for him to kind of lose it. With that conversation, which I like.
That's what, Hoskins said, it just makes you more of who you already are.
Yeah.
Which in Walker's case that's not a good thing.
Right.
At least at this point in his life.
Right,
So this episode ends with Walker going after one of the Flag Smashers, and as the world watches, and this is fun too, that's kind of a callback to the Black Panther movie. You remember when Black Panther captures Claw, and Nakia and Okoye intervene, and they're like, people are watching. You can't do this, King.
Yeah.
There was nobody there to do that with Walker. He just uses the shield offensively and kills the guy.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so then we see the blood streaks on the shield, which was a really powerful image.
That was the most serious, darkest thing I've ever seen so far in the MCU.
Yeah, it really was. And I mean, and there's a lot of, not to get too deep in it, but there's a lot of political kind of social commentary here too. With the first Avenger, you saw kind of the positive spin on patriotism.
Yeah.
With this, you see where patriotism can turn into extreme nationalism or jingoism and become dangerous. And that's what we're seeing played out here.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
That was the end of episode 4.
What an episode. It ended on such a powerful image, such a striking, shocking image. Mm-hmm. I love this episode. It's an absolute winner from start to finish. Mm-hmm. So what would you rate it?
On a scale of 5, I'm going to give it a 4.5 just because the only negative being I really didn't like the part that Zemo played. Other than that, awesome.
I mean, I don't have that overall investment in Zemo that you do. Yeah. I mean, I'd like him to be more villainous and more, like the comic. But again, it's not a make or break for me. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a full 5 or A+, whatever you want to, however you want to.
Yeah. I definitely can see your point of view. I mean, it really was, that last scene really was shocking. I mean, we don't see a lot of, we see action in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We don't see a lot of gore.
Yeah, this was brutality.
Right. Well, it's like we said, in many ways, this is the opposite of WandaVision, and that was illustrated there. So, yeah. So, episode 5, entitled Truth. And we see Walker running away from the scene where he was just at, and we see him kind of thinking about what he's just done, and he's confused. And it made me think about, the callback to the first Avenger, when Abraham Erskine, asked Steve Rogers, are you here because you want to kill Nazis? And Rogers said, I don't want to kill anybody. I just don't like bullies. Yeah. And here we see the other side of that, John Walker is somebody for whom having this weaponry and now having the serum turns him into something very dark.
Yeah.
And so Bucky and Sam, they show up and where Walker is, and they basically try to talk him down, and they try to talk him into giving back the shield. And it does not go well. So what did you think of that?
You can't talk that guy down, first of all. And I like that you said the contrast between Steve Rogers with the serum and his approach to Walker's. It really it really hammers home the point of what a special human being the character Steve Rogers is. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right. And Zemo even says that. He was like, he said something about, that if you're on the road to being a super soldier, it makes you a supremacist by default. And I believe it was Sam or Bucky that said, well, what about Steve Rogers? And Zemo was like, well, touche. Steve Rogers is special.
Yeah,
Bucky is special. So
he's the exception to the rule. Yeah.
Right. So Sam basically, he tries to calm Walker down and basically, and says it was in the heat of the battle. Yeah. But it erupts into a fight because obviously Walker is having none of it. And there is a lot of great fight choreography here. I mean, it's in kind of this abandoned warehouse, and Walker is playing for keeps. I mean, he's not taking it easy on
he's out to kill. Like it's a different kind of fighting than Civil War.
Yes.
Where in Civil War, that they didn't really want to do mortal damage to each other in the airport scene. They're not trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
Walker is trying to kill here.
Well, obviously, not only does he rip Sam's wings off, he holds the shield in the same position, that murder position that he used in episode 4. And Bucky's able to intervene at the last second, but it looked like Walker was ready to commit murder again.
Yeah.
So eventually, they're able to. I got to say it here. They're able to tag team Walker.
They do,
including,
yeah. They knew they would be impressed.
Yeah, including they're able to take away one of his arms. They're able to break one of his arms. And then they hit him with a move that definitely would have gotten the WWE tag team titles at WrestleMania.
It's kind of like it's a flying clothesline, but with your feet.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't call that a drop kick. I can't call that a clothesline. It's somewhere in between that.
Yeah, but on top of that, you see a lot of like metaphors here as the Shield kind of flies around from person to person, and at one point it's dropped in the middle of Sam and Walker, and they both kind of run towards it. Yeah. And so you see kind of that imagery of the mantle of Captain America being being
Vince McMahon would have a field day with that kind of a match. Imagine he put it on a ladder. He'd do that with the super serum too. He'd be like, all right, who wants it?
Yeah. Okay, so after all this is over, we see Bucky. He's talking to Torres. Excuse me. We see Sam and Bucky talking to Torres. Bucky says he's going to take care of Zemo. They talk about Carly being on the run. Sam takes the shield, but he leaves the wings with Torres, who, by the way, is a very likable character.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So we cut to Washington, D.C., where Walker is being chastised in front of a council. And they're telling him you will no longer act in any capacity as Captain America.
Yeah.
Yeah. They say, we're stripping you of your title. We're stripping you of your authority. And he says, I'm only what you made me. And he looks at him and he says, I am the Senate. Yeah. And I'm just kidding. That's something else. Anyway. But it's an interesting concept to think about a soldier, pondering all the different aspects of being made into a weapon, not just holding a weapon.
Yeah.
And so he's, instead of pulling the thumb, he's pointing the finger and saying, you were the ones who made me this way.
And it's kind of an interesting, larger question, conversation to have, because somebody having that general perspective just in real life, if they had that, you couldn't fault them for having that perspective. Like, imagine somebody in the army going over there. They are, in a sense, a weapon, right? So somebody could have that perspective, and you wouldn't fault them for having that. So interesting topics being broached here in the series.
Well, yeah, a lot of very deep. Questions, and a lot of things that are.
I see some people criticizing, oh, this show is too woke, and it's like, it's a Captain America related show. Did you not think they were going to have political, conversations? Like, hello.
Yes. I mean, the simple fact, Captain America started, as that, he Captain America.
The Spider-Man show, I get it.
Yeah.
It's a different ball game, but we're talking about Captain America's universe. It's going to get political.
Right. Yeah. There's no way around that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So Walker goes out into the hall, and he is met by Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, who just said, call me Val, but don't say it out loud.
Yeah. Played by Seinfeld alum, to call back to one of my old co-hosts. Great.
Yes.
But yeah, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who of course was Elaine.
Yeah, was Elaine.
Imagine if her and Zemo both started doing their dance moves. That would have been a disaster. Because remember how Elaine.
Oh, no.
And then throw Sami Zayn in there with his dance moves from last night on Smack. Oh boy, it's been a real.
And I gotta say this. My wife even brought this up. Julia Louis-Dreyfus does not look that different than she did on Seinfeld, which was 25 years ago.
Yeah, not really, not that much different.
Yeah. She has not aged very much. I do know a little bit about this character. At one time, I want to say it was the late 60s. The character was a member of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh.
But yes, and then later on, though, it's revealed, and this was like in the last 15 years, it was revealed that she was actually an operative for Hydra.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And so it seems to me that that's where they're going with this character. She definitely doesn't seem like a heroic character.
Yeah, because you can see her planting the seeds in recruiting Walker.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, my question is, Donnie, I know it'd be slightly different to the comics, but do you think she could be the orchestrator of like a Dark Avengers team?
Oh, that's possible. A lot of people have been talking about that with Walker on.
Because I know that's typically Norman Osborn's job.
Mm-hmm.
But as of yet, we haven't seen Norman Osborn. So,
right. Yeah.
I mean,
you definitely could be right.
Walker obviously could be the Captain America analog, and then the rest of the roster would have to fill out accordingly. But I gotta believe that Marvel's building to that at some point.
Mm-hmm. No, I would agree. I definitely see that as an option.
Yeah.
So back in the show here, we see that Carly and the Flag Smashers, they go back to her base. They see that the base was raided. Obviously, she escalates. At the same time, we see Bucky finds Zemo at a Sokovia Memorial statue. And he and Zemo have a conversation, and Bucky puts a gun in his face. Which very interesting here.
Yeah.
Again, I was a little disappointed because Helmut Zemo in the comics, it's somebody, you stick a gun in his face, he's going to cut your hand off.
Yeah, exactly.
This version, he just kind of stands there and is willing to take it, and then we see that the gun's unloaded.
But I think the interesting part of that is the fact that Bucky, who's the one who broke him out, has reached the breaking of like, okay, I've had enough of you. Like I'm done.
It's interesting development for Bucky, not so much for Baron Zemo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then the Dora Milaje, they show up again, and they do take Bucky, and they take him to the raft.
Yeah.
Which is, we saw the raft at the end of Civil War, Captain America Civil War. So, yeah. And I didn't Io tell Bucky at this point not to come to Wakanda?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think she tells him that too. So that should be interesting. Although, again, we've got some other things that Bucky's going to have on his plate here. Then the scene cuts to Sam going to talk to Isaiah Bradley.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk social commentary, political commentary, you can't get away from it here. I mean, this is some really deep stuff here. Yeah. And, Isaiah starts talking about the long legacy of abuse against not just black soldiers, but black people in general by America.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, to see somebody who, by the way, he talks about how he basically freed his regiment. He did the same thing Captain America did in the first Avenger, only he got locked up and experimented on, whereas Cap was a hero. Steve Rogers was a hero.
Now, did he get, because there's a lot of, he got experimented on with super soldier serum, because there's a lot of talk, Bucky or Sam had said you could have been the Captain America, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he said they'll never let a black man be Captain America.
In fact, the full quote, which was, again, very profound, he said, "They will never let a black man beat Captain America." And then he added, "No self-respecting black man would ever want to be."
Yeah. So it's interesting how he did the same thing. And they were experimenting with super soldier serum, but they didn't ask his permission. And I'm assuming, judging by his scars, they didn't do it very humanely.
No.
So,
and he also said that he was in prison for 30 years. So you see the contrast between the way Steve Rogers was treated and the way
Steve
Isaiah
Rogers
Bradley
got a drink and a conversation with Dr. Erskine. And, not so much on the other side of the aisle.
Yeah. So I mean, and again, you have to expect that. This, as we said, when you're dealing with these characters, they don't go at it. They go at these characters in a very nuanced way.
Yeah. See, and this is where I get aggravated, because for all the fans that complain that the MCU is just fluff and popcorn and blah blah blah, and then they get something like this, and then you still have a segment of the fandom saying it's too woke. Well, what do you want?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I don't get these people. But
yeah, no matter what they do,
I thought it was great, and the acting was just top tier.
It was incredibly powerful. I mean, Carl Lumbly is. Oh my goodness! I mean,
who can argue with the one-time Martian Manhunter?
Yeah, Martian Manhunter's dad too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Papa Manhunter.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's absolutely amazing. So, then
did you say there was a comic you wanted to recommend here? Was this the moment? Is this the segment that you wanted to mention?
Not necessarily, but okay. I'll go ahead and say it. Again, going back to Baron Zemo, a very nuanced character himself. Eventually, there was a comic series called Born Better. I believe it was 4 issues, and he basically ends up traveling through time and meets a lot of his relatives. And you see that he's advancing beyond just being, a mustache twirling villain. Okay. He does have some problems with his family's legacy.
Okay.
But at this point, he had been in the comics for decades, and a lot of things had gone, had already happened, like him trying to drop Captain America in a vat of boiling adhesive X. Again,
he tries to do that in this story?
Not in this story, but he had tried to do that before. So I wouldn't have nearly the problem of Zemo advancing to this stage had they already showed him coming from a different place to where he develops from a villain as opposed to just somebody who's upset about what happens in Sokovia.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So anyway,
worth checking out, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Born Better. Yeah. It's great comic.
Is it Captain America Born Better, or is it?
No, it's Baron Zemo is the main character in that.
Okay.
Helmut Zemo. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you actually see Baron Zemo confront his father in that too, which was the other Baron Zemo, Heinrich Zemo. So yeah.
So Heinrich versus
Helmut.
Dawn of Zemo. Yeah.
Man, yeah. This is why I enjoy these podcasts.
Because one is the wife, and to one she's the wife, and one she's the mother. If they say that name, does the fight stop?
I don't. It's been a while since I read it, but the mother wasn't there that I remember.
Right, but if they mention the name, they both have a common stake in that, so the fight could stop. Right,
could stop. Yeah. So yeah,
I couldn't help it. Continue.
The mother's name is Zartha, something like that. Anyway, by the way, did you like that video I sent you earlier?
I did. Yeah.
Anyway, so
that's the best use of a Batman action figure I've ever seen. Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. So things go back to Sam and his sister, who they're trying to fix up the boat to sell it.
Yeah.
And eventually they decide to hold on to it, I think. And yeah. And I really like this because instead of calling, Bucky does show up, by the way, but when Sam says he's going to call in a favor, it's his neighbors.
Yeah.
And I really like this because you see that it's not just like, superheroes who are being heroic here.
Regular people, yeah.
It's regular people. They all show up in Sarah's time of need, the Wilson family's time of need. You see them show up.
This is a nice reminder of a couple things. When people could congregate, and when neighbors actually talk to each other, as opposed to now, who really sees their neighbor,
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Rogers would be so disappointed.
Speaking of, now here's the big thing for Bucky. Bucky shows up and he does help Sam, but he starts to flirt with Sarah.
Yeah.
Bucky likes Sarah, and Sarah seems to like Bucky back. And
Sam doesn't like it.
Sam gives him the stink eye because he sees it at one point and he's like, hey.
Stop, leave my sister alone.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah.
Typical brother reaction.
Exactly. I see the big brother talk coming some point in the future, and So let's see, where are we here?
Didn't they have an exchange with the Shield?
Well, there was kind of a training montage towards the end here. Both of them kind of, using the Shield, talking to one another about, Steve's legacy and what does the legacy of the Shield mean now in a more modern setting as opposed to what it meant, not only 10 years ago or 9 years ago, whatever, with the Avengers, but what it meant in World War II. Things are different now. The world is different now. By the way, Mackie is in amazing shape. I saw a video of him challenging, it was either an Army soldier or a Marine, to a one-arm push-up contest during like one of their promotional tours, and Mackie won.
Wow.
He's the guy is an amazing.
He definitely bulked up for the role for sure.
And some of those flips that were being done and stuff, I don't know if there was a stunt person helping him or not, but when I was looking,
it's impressive.
Spider-Man would be proud. So
I thought the same thing. I'm like,
Yeah. So cut to a scene in New York. We see the upcoming council meeting to vote on the Patch Act, and we see Carly meet with Batroc, who he's just there to get revenge on Falcon. But now Carly, she has more firepower, and we know it's about to go down. And then we see the post-credit scene, and we see that Walker isn't done either. Even though he doesn't have the shield anymore, he's fashioning his own.
Yeah, and I like the way the hammering kind of echoed Tony Stark creating the Mark I, the Iron Man suit.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of cool. But also, but also, this is the episode where Bucky asks the Dora Milaje to do him a favor.
Yes.
And that favor is...
And we see that favor manifesting at the beginning of episode 6.
Yeah.
So before we get into that, what would you rate? Oh, I'm going to give this one a 5. I mean, it was perfect setup. Yeah. So yours was a 5 too?
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
So episode 6, One World, One People. And we immediately see the big payoff. Yeah. Well, I mean that's what the Flag Smashers have been saying.
Yeah.
And of course the Flag Smashers, they are trying to disrupt the vote. And who shows up but Sam Wilson, Captain America, in his Captain America outfit, and you can see right behind Adam's head there, that is the costume.
If I turn this way, can you see it?
Yes, I can see it. That's got to be one of my favorite on-screen costumes. I just thought it looked gorgeous.
It looks incredible.
And I loved it with the wings. The wings, it's just,
Yeah. It's, I'm okay if a live action, adaptation takes liberties with a costume. Like it does, like they don't have to be 100% comic accurate for me to say, "Oh my God, I love it," and if it's not, I hate it. I'm not that kind of fan. But when you see it like this, and it's comic accurate, man, does it look amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I like his debut where you see him flying around, like it's in like in shadow. You don't see him at first, and then he crashes, like he throws the shield from the window. And he crashes in. Like, what an end. That's a hero entrance.
Yeah. And I really like the moment where he saved the one civilian by putting his wings around him and putting the shield over their heads.
When the helicopter...
Oh, yes. Yeah. That was amazing.
By the way, the whole helicopter rescue, was phenomenal.
Using Red Wing, yeah.
Yeah, that was something that you'd expect to see in a movie theater, but you saw it on your TV screen.
Yeah. I also like the fight with Batroc, and Batroc says, I wonder what I can get for bringing in your new bird costume.
Yeah.
And Sam, in typical Marvel fashion, he's like, how about some French fries and a baguette?
Which I laughed because I would have said the same thing. And you know me, George St. Pierre I got nothing against him, talented fighter, but he's French Canadian, probably likes the Montreal Canadiens, and for that reason, he should be brandished the villain. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because if your life choice is to be a Montreal Canadiens fan, you've made the wrong choice.
Oh, but that's a different podcast.
Of course, yeah.
So a couple of revelations in this. One is that we see Carly has now become the most dangerous kind of villain. It's not about wealth it's not about wealth. It's not about power. It's not even about just proving a point. She's ready to die for her cause.
Yeah, and she has no qualms about killing others either.
And that's what I'm saying is she is so convinced that she's right that it doesn't matter what else happens as long as she achieves her goal.
Absolutely.
So I know a lot of people question that they thought that the character was a little half baked along the way, but it definitely landed in the place that they wanted.
Well, character progression over the episodes, she got more. Yeah.
Yes. And interestingly enough, Sharon Carter turns out to be the power broker.
That was shocking.
Yeah.
I said last week that Emily Van Camp on the list. But I'm just going to come right out and say it, Donnie, and ask the question. Do you think this Sharon Carter that we're seeing is a Skrull?
I've heard that theory online, and I think it's a possibility.
And I don't think it's a cop-out if she is. It goes along with the storyline of the Secret Invasion.
Mm-hmm. She's definitely acting very different, so it wouldn't surprise me if this turns out to be a Skrull.
Yeah.
So and by the way, she also kills Batroc.
Yeah.
And Carly is also killed. Yeah.
Being a Montreal Canadiens fan, dangerous business.
It's really interesting as another revelation here, and I didn't think this would happen this soon. Yeah. Walker is bent on trying to kill Carly for killing Lamar Hoskins, Battlestar, and there's a moment where he's chasing her, and there's like an FBI van full of people that's ready to fall off of this ledge, and he makes the heroic decision to stop going after her and to try to stop it.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because when he calls out her name and you don't really see him, but you see the shit, I'm like, wait a minute, is that Sam? And then it pans up and I'm like, no, it's this jackass. and so I'm like, this isn't going to end well. But then when he makes the decision, I'm like, wow, there is some good in this guy still.
Yeah. Well, in the comics, U.S. Agent does eventually become a hero.
Right.
But I wasn't necessarily expecting it to happen within the span of 6 episodes.
But I will say, though, that there is still some kind of mixed emotions in him, because if he's working for, what's her name?
Val. Val, yeah.
If he's working for Elaine, I'm just going to call her Elaine. Either people get on board or they don't, I don't care. But he's working for Elaine. There's clearly some. He's not fully reformed yet. I still think he's got a ways to go before he gets there. I think maybe he will at some point, but.
No, you definitely make a good point, and I could see obviously the Dark Avengers making some morally questionable decisions within the MCU.
Yeah.
But Carly is eventually killed, and you see a lot of great acting out of Sam here. He has a lot of compassion for her.
Yeah.
Just the acting here. First of all, Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan, just amazing actors. So again, this last episode was really powerful. After it all goes down with the Flag Smashers, after they're stopped, we see an incredible scene where Sam goes back to Isaiah Bradley. And
before
go ahead.
Before we move forward,
yeah.
I just got a comment on when Sam gets involved with saving the truck.
Go ahead.
Right. I've heard a lot of complaints. Well, that's unrealistic. Hold on a second. For the fans that think that's unrealistic, don't lie, because I know this probably to be a fact. When Iron Man got hit by a moon in Endgame, you all cheered like it was the best thing since the dawn of time, and now you're saying this is unrealistic. I call BS.
Right.
Listen, we're in a world where a guy with a hammer, a demigod with a hammer. We've got a guy that turns green, like he doesn't fit his pants anymore. A guy that shoots webbing out of his hands. What did I miss? You name it, we got it in this universe. And you people are going to nitpick over Sam Wilson pushing up a truck.
Yeah,
like he's got a jetpack. He's got a jetpack, for God's sake, behind him.
Right, but yeah, made out, and again, an outfit that is made out of vibranium. So
when Wolverine comes in, when they recast Wolverine in the MCU and the claws pop, are people going to sit there and say, "Oh, that's unrealistic"? Okay, stop with the BS.
Right.
It's a comic book show, for God's sake.
Yeah. So, but back to what I was saying is, you see this moment where Sam has ensured that Isaiah Bradley's, that there's a wing that's been added to, like, Captain America's.
I love that.
Yeah, that display, and he says, now nobody will ever forget what you did for this country.
Between that and the speech he has with the senator or whoever the guy is.
Yeah, on TV, that was amazing. Yeah.
That people can see. Look. I'm whiter than Wonder Bread. Okay. Like, I give the Stay Puft Ghost, the no ghost in the ghost logo for Ghostbusters a run for showing how white I am. I had a couple of tears trickling down my face when that speech was going on.
Yeah.
Like, that was powerful. Yeah. It is so reflective of the world we live in today. And this goes beyond the U.S. Racism is and maltreatment of other cultures is in Canada. It's all over the world, so it's not just a U.S. problem. And if that speech doesn't hit you in some way, shape, or form, I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
That is so powerful and emotionally resonant, and so profound for today. What we're going through today. Again, you want to sit here and tell me that the MCU doesn't have stakes? I call BS on that too.
Yeah, that was, it was incredibly powerful because it addressed the fact that, people process events differently, and you can't automatically assume that the way you view things is going to make you the good guy.
Yeah.
And he was like, we have to start seeing things from different points of view, which is, again, what America is about. America is, whether you want to use the melting pot or the stew analogy, lots of different cultures coming together and learning how to coexist. And that's what I think Sam was trying to convey here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. It was so powerful on so many levels.
Yeah.
Because it's talking about the issue of racism that we have in the world, but it's also urging coming together.
Mm-hmm.
And in a time where we've all had to be apart from each other, that is a rousing, uplifting message that I think goes beyond just race or the issue of race. And it really impacted me. So well done.
Right. No, this was the big payoff in just about every way. I didn't like how obviously Baron Zemo's story ended. We see that Zemo is.
You still have gripes with that, but
right. But I'm even going to overlook that. It does seem that he had a hand in killing some of the remaining Flag Smashers.
Right. So maybe he's on the way to that villain. There's
it could
still
be
a chance. Yeah,
it could be. I would still love to see the Masters of
Donnie's
Evil.
going to pay somebody to disfigure his face in the raft. You can see Donnie's going to be starting a Kickstarter. Somebody disfigure his face.
I'm not that mean.
But
maybe the fictional characters. Maybe I am.
Yeah,
Anyway.
not the real actor, but the thing,
right.
The MCU version of you will pay somebody to.
Right. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. But the 616 version of you or whatever, yeah. I
call myself the Face Smasher.
Yeah. So there we go. So we'll rate the episode. And then we'll talk about our news bit that I thought we'd save because it ties into what happened in the series.
Yeah.
So, out of 5, what did you think of the episode? And then give a letter grade for the whole series. How about that?
I'm gonna give I'm gonna give this episode a 5. As far as the series, I'm gonna give it an A- only because again I had high hopes for Zemo, and I should say too the Nori, the resolution with Bucky and Nori, I thought was a little rushed in this episode.
Okay.
Because you learn, that he he killed his son, and he goes to him and says, I'm the one who did it. And then you see him in a bar, and it just kind of felt a little rushed, like, oh, we forgot, we got to put this in here. So
yeah.
But I'm going to give the entire series an A-. So
okay. So the episode for
5.
me is a 5 as well, and the series as a whole is an A. Look, I think that to me, the Captain America corner of the MCU is on par in quality for me with the Dark Knight trilogy.
Wow.
For me to say that, everybody knows that Batman is my boy. It's been my boy since I was 6 years old. So for me to say that, I hope that means something. If my opinion means anything, which, for most people it doesn't. But anyway, for the 5 people that listen to the show, go for it.
By the way, I need to correct myself. His name was not Nori; it was Yori Nakajima.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
And so that's how highly I regard the Captain America corner of the MCU. And again, the MCU made me a fan of this character. Before, I just thought he was rah America, and I'm wearing the flag and blah blah blah. But
you mean Steve or Sam?
Well, Steve, and then Sam came later. But it's because of these movies that I'm a fan of Captain America and his world, his corner of the world. So kudos to the MCU for doing that.
I want to praise, if I can praise Captain America's trilogy, if you want to call it that. It was the only one that I thought got better each time, from the first Avenger to the Winter Soldier
whereas by Iron Man 3, I was like, I still like Iron Man 1 to 3, but there are parts in each where I'm like, right. 2 and 3 is like, I wish he hadn't done this in 2, and I definitely wish he hadn't done this in 3. They're still good, but they're not, A plus, or A minus, A plus. Like, whereas Captain America's whole story, I think, just keeps getting better and better. Right. So I am overjoyed by the fact that as we end, we'll talk about the news, that there is a Captain America 4 in development at Marvel Studios, and it is going to be brought to us by the showrunner of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He's going to co-write with one of the staff writers. He's going to write this next adventure. Now, the article doesn't say whether, and by the way, this is coming from the Hollywood Reporter. It's not coming from Cosmic Book News. It's not coming from We Got Discovered or Geekosity or any of the bull garbage, those kind of sites. The toilet paper of online media. It's coming from a legitimate place. And so it doesn't give us, they say a director hasn't been chosen, cast hasn't been finalized. But they speculate that Captain America, that this will, given who's involved, it's going to continue the adventures of Sam Wilson as Captain America. And I think that's a smart move. It also says something interesting, Donnie. That said this project is separate from the project featuring Steve Rogers that will bring Chris Evans, that will reportedly bring Chris Evans back in the fold. Now, I know that Deadline broke the story that he was coming back, and then Kevin Feige and Chris Evans both did the standard, "Oh, it's news to me," or "It's not happening." When a Hollywood trade breaks that, and then a studio follows up with, "Well, that's not true," or I don't know. That's standard operating procedure.
Yeah, right.
So now my question to you is, I believe that at some point Chris Evans will return.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the options will be an appearance in Captain America 4 as old Steve Rogers?
You know, in the
go ahead.
Sorry.
Could it be both? Could it be a scenario where we get both, or could it be a limited series on Disney Plus, telling an adventure during the World War II era? Because there's still fertile ground there.
Oh, so yes.
What do you think?
It could be either one. I just want to point out that in the comics, Steve got the serum temporarily sucked out of him by the Iron Nail, which is how Sam becomes Captain America. We could see something like that where old man Steve is kind of an advisor to the Avengers.
Yeah.
At the same time, we could also get, like what you're talking about, a limited series on Disney Plus, reviewing some kind of adventure that Captain America had during World War II or right after.
I say do both.
Something like that. So, yeah.
And bring back Joe Johnston, because I love The Rocketeer, and Captain America, the First Avenger, was great too. So, yeah. I say do both. That's me being a fan and wanting it all. Having said that, I'm not going to go underneath every post that Disney posted and write, hashtag bring back World War II Steve Rogers, or hashtag make the old man Cap movie. I'm not going to do any of that garbage. I'm just saying, if you're going to give me something, I'd take both. That's my thing. That's as far as I'll take it. Right. But with all that greatness out of the way, that brings this episode of the Marvel Masterworks podcast to a close. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of Marvel coming, both on screen and in comics. And if you want to talk more Marvel with either me or Donnie, don't be afraid to. We encourage the conversation. Yes. And you can do that on social media. So, Donnie, if they want to continue the Marvel talk, where can they do that?
You can find me on social media. You can find me on Twitter as the Emerald Enthusiast. You can come hit me up with any question. Let's talk TV. Let's talk movies. Let's talk comics. Let's talk Captain America. Let's talk Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Or let's talk Green Lantern.
Sounds good. And if you want to talk to me, you can do so at Adam_LeafsFan on Twitter. You can also find the podcast Vidcast Network Twitter at MMNPDC. That's strictly more where we post the episodes. I mean, there hasn't been any talk really on there. You can talk to me on there and I'll answer by all means. And then if Facebook is more your style, we do have a Facebook group. The link is below. Click it. I will add you. I've got to make Donnie an administrator so he can add people too. I've yet to do that because of forgetfulness and laziness. I will at some point. But follow us there. We'll add you, and we continue the conversation there as well. But until next episode, remember that, and I think I can say this now, it's appropriate. Captain America and the Winter Soldier are forever. From the first time either of them picks up the shield to the last. So long, everybody.
So long, everyone.